Aw, Kirby, everybody's favorite B-level Nintendo character / vacuum cleaner. My opinions on the Kirby franchise are, even in my own head, relatively undefined. I've played the first 3 games thus far and have come to the following conclusions. The series offers very enjoyable, if a bit casual platforming, and can even go toe-to-toe with some of my all-time favorite tough-as-nails titles when it chooses to, usually for its final bosses. However, the Kirby's team approach to 100% completion usually leaves a lot to be desired, and pretty much every game I've played so far has managed to find a way to make a burden of itself before the end of its run in one way or another. So why am I telling you this? Because of the game we're going to be taking a look at today, Kirby's Dream Land 3. I have a bit of a bad habit of leaving the Kirby series dormant for longer than I should. Hard to believe it's already been 3 months since I took a look at the last one. Let's rectify that today and take a look at Kirby's Dream Land 3 for the Super Nintendo. In Dream Land 3, you once again play as the titular Kirby, an inexplicably ravenous pink orb on a quest to save his home in Dreamland from a mysterious dark force. This is actually the first game from the Kirby franchise to make the jump to 16-bit hardware, a significant improvement power-wise from the Game Boy line of systems that has previously housed the Dreamland series. While many people may lament franchises that stay on what they perceive to be outdated hardware for too long, I have personally rather enjoyed when 2 or 3 games can share an engine which allows you to really master the controls over the course of your time with the character. So how does the feel hold up when ported to a 16-bit system? Kirby's moves should be familiar to anyone who has played any of the previous games. You'll be able to move through stages, sucking up enemies and absorbing their powers in order to progress. The controls are very similar to their incarnations in previous entries, with even a bit more room to breathe on the Super Nintendo pad. I am a little bit embarrassed to admit this, but I did have just a little bit of trouble learning some of the new features introduced in this game. For starters, when I first started playing, I took note of the fact that your walking speed seems to be rather sluggish compared to what I expected. I, unfortunately, opted to play through almost half of the game at this pace before discovering that double tapping a directional button will send Kirby into a sprint. There's also the matter of the A button. Giving it a tap will summon Gooey at the cost of 2 health, an AI-controlled companion that, in my opinion, pretty much exclusively gets in the way. I summon this guy like 12 times a level, and every time you do, if you want him to go away, you have to aggressively abuse your A button until he explodes. Or so I thought. As it turns out, you can just suck them back up and even regain your health in the process. Besides my own hangups over how the game works, Dream Land 3 feels quite nice to play. Of course, using a new engine, there is a bit of a learning curve when it comes to more intense and precise movements, but nothing you can't adjust to over time. Moving to a 16-bit system, of course you would expect the already incredible art direction seen in previous games to come out stronger than ever in the 4th outing. This game opts to go for a very interesting, stylized art direction that heavily utilizes pastel colors. Personally, I would almost always prefer a more bold pixel art style, but there is certainly no shortage of games that utilize them, and as such, it's very interesting to see designers push SNES hardware in a new direction every once in a while. The impressive visuals are accompanied by what is unequivocally an amazing soundtrack. If you spend any significant amount of time on the retro gaming side of the internet, I'd hazard to guess that you've at least heard a few of these before. To make your way to the end credits, you'll have to successfully navigate a total of 5 worlds, each containing 6 levels and a boss fight. The overworld map has been simplified quite a bit and now consists of a glorified level select screen rather than the free-roaming overworlds we're used to. Honestly though, I kinda dig it. Of course, a Kirby game wouldn't be complete without some sort of extra process you need to go through to reach 100%. In Dream Land 3, those would be the Heart Stars, which you'll need to collect in every level. I think the Heart Stars are a marked improvement over previous incarnations of this concept. For starters, the fact that you have to collect one in every stage makes it much less tedious to remember where and when you need to be looking for one, and the way you collect these is just downright fun. You have to complete minor quests within stages to help out some friendly NPCs for a reward at the end of the level. In some cases, collecting these Heart Star pieces can even be enjoyable, although they do still occasionally dip into the category of being generally burdensome to what is otherwise enjoyable light-paced platforming. I've particularly struggled with some of the stars in the final levels of various worlds, which usually crank the difficulty up quite a bit. As is Kirby tradition at this point, Dream Land 3 offers excellence in the form of boss fights. These boss fights are usually the best part of Kirby games for me, offering fast-paced action that absolutely requires you learn the ins and outs of every pattern to emerge victorious. We'll be meeting with a lot of old favorites here, albeit with a lot of brand new spins that keep them feeling fresh on the new console. As well as that, you may expect many new bosses as well, all of which hold up to the previously set quality standard. The final boss here also sets an entirely new standard for a Kirby game in that getting a game over no longer requires you to complete multiple phases of a completely unrelated boss fight to get back to where you previously were for another attempt. The actual boss fight itself is also a lot of fun. It's a shoot 'em up, so you can expect more controller abuse to take place, but besides that, it's learning patterns, avoiding its attacks, and dealing as much damage as possible feels much more doable than it did in the previous entry, while still managing to provide a legitimate challenge and feeling hugely rewarding when you finally prevail. Your path to 100% completion is relatively straightforward this time around. You'll of course have to collect every heart star piece in every level. Doing this and finishing the story will net you a whopping 97% completion. From here, you'll need to tediously slog your way through a gauntlet of every minigame from the main campaign without making a single mistake. Finally, you'll be expected to take on every single boss battle from the entire game on 1 life, 0 heals, back to back to back. This is by far the most difficult part of the entire experience, but fortunately, it's placed at the end of the game, meaning if you absolutely insist on getting that final percent, at least it won't affect your enjoyment of the rest of the title. So what do I think about Kirby's Dream Land 3? Well, if you're a longtime Kirby fan that's yet to check out this entry, or if you've never played a Kirby game and are looking for a great title to dive in on, this might just be the game for you. I can honestly say that this is probably my favorite Kirby game I've played so far, and I don't hesitate to recommend it. There are a number of ways to play Dreamland 3 today, but by far the most accessible is with the release on the Nintendo Switch Online service. Some could even argue that this is the definitive way to play the game, since the Switch introduces pseudo-high-res blending to allow for true transparency effects in water and plants. But no matter how you play, you'll probably have a decent time with Kirby's Dreamland 3. And that's it for this week's video. What do you think about the latest generation of consoles? Let me hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it a ton if you could leave a like or subscribe if you haven't already. The support on this channel recently has been amazing, and I couldn't do it without all of you. If you would like to follow any of my socials, I'll have them all linked down below, as well as any of the music I might have used in this video. With that being said, I'll see you all for a very special episode next week, and as always, thanks for watching.